You can't be surprised that Shannon Sharpe and ESPN parted ways, can you? You just can't be. Whether we talked about it or Nothing Personal on the Levitard show. Do you remember the story of Shannon Sharpe? You may listen to his podcast because everyone does. You may have watched him on First Take because everyone did. You may have listened to Stephen A. Smith stop the presses and do an entire show when Shannon Sharpe got accused of some nefarious behavior. Do you remember when Stephen A. Smith went on the air and said, I don't know what's going to be. I just know this is my friend, but I don't have the facts. Can't talk when I don't have the facts. It hasn't stopped you before. Shannon Sharpe took a leave of absence from ESPN. That leave of absence, as you knew it would, has led to a PLOA. An LOA is just a leave of absence. It can end. A PLOA is a permanent leave of absence. A permanent leave of absence has a synonym. Canned, fired, separated, divorced. ESPN officially cut ties with Shannon Sharpe. Remember, he is a Hall of Fame player. He is now a Hall of Fame media personality. But you also remember that his ex-girlfriend accused him of rape. You remember that. You remember that in late April, he was gone from ESPN when that suit was first filed. And you remember what he said is, hey, I plan to return to ESPN when NFL training camp. I'm going to better myself. And we said, I don't think so. I find it all very interesting that there's certain things that are okay at ESPN and certain things that are not. I think we can all agree that allegations of rape are not. I think we also agree that sometimes allegations are made that can be proven not to be true. Except, what do you do when you settle an allegation? And I've told you that there's nuisance fees. Someone sues you, sometimes you pay them even when you don't want to. Sometimes you pay them because the cost of settling is less than the cost of litigating. Sometimes you go all the way and you don't care what the cost is because you are going to prove the person wrong. Remember what happened with Jay-Z? Everything dropped. No, it wasn't me. Because at some point you say, I will not allow this to impugn my reputation, but only the innocent can do that. There are innocent people who settle. No question. We talked about it. When Shannon Sharpe settled an undisclosed settlement, the attorney for the woman, Tony Busby, said, hey, after protracted and respectful negotiations, I'm pleased to announce that we've reached a mutually agreed upon resolution. Code word for he hit the bid. That's the code word for that when you're a lawyer. Then Tony Busby said, all matters have now been addressed satisfactorily and the matter's closed. The lawsuit will be dismissed with prejudice. That's a legal word that people misunderstand. What with prejudice means, it doesn't mean you're racist. With prejudice, what it means is that's it. When you settle a suit with prejudice, it's done. You can't bring it up again. You can't sue again, no matter what comes out, no matter what you learn, no matter what you want, no matter how quickly you spend the settlement money. Without prejudice doesn't mean that you're not racist. Without prejudice means, hey, I may want to revisit this later. You pay a little extra for the with prejudice part because it's gone. You never have to deal with that person again. You can appreciate Deshaun Watson if you've got 50 of them. It doesn't really matter with or without prejudice because they just keep going. When you got one of them, you'd like to get the with prejudice. Shannon Sharpe has continued his podcast. You know he does a nightly, that nightly thing that you listen to with Chad Johnson. He does that Club Shay Shay where he gets all the great interviews. What you don't get is him on ESPN. Why? Because ESPN, while he may or may not have been closing in on a $100 million deal before these allegations, which is now off the table, whoever the platform was, what we've decided as a industry, we've decided that we've got certain non-negotiables. Crudeness, that's negotiable. Disrespect, that's negotiable. Being wrong, that's negotiable. Being extremely political, that's negotiable. Have we gotten to the point, if you're not Jimmy Haslam, that mistreating women, raping, that's non-negotiable? Have we made that progress? That would be amazing. I'm trying to ask not for the moon and the stars. I'm not trying to say that everything should be a non-negotiable, even though I do believe there should be way more non-negotiables when you've got the responsibility of a microphone and you've got a big audience. We should all be held to a higher standard. We should not have it be accepted by our audience or our bosses when we do things with our microphone that are questionable. And I don't mean a bad opinion about a sports take. I'm talking about something that matters. I get it wrong with a trade or with the analysis of a player. I get a fact wrong that needs a correction. That's all negotiable. You decide whether you'll allocate 2 hours of your time with me. If I'm wrong all the time, or you disagree or agree all the time, or I bore you all the time, you're going to vote with your fingers. You're going to vote with your ears and your time. But don't you agree that there should be a baseline of decency as it relates to not just women, but the ability to understand the responsibility that when we talk, people are listening, whether your platform is 2 people, 10 people, or 10 million people? ESPN did the right thing here. It's got to be non-negotiable what happened with Shannon Sharpe. The problem is there's a platform out there where being negotiable, hey, that's just the modus operandi. On YouTube, where you are watching me right now, almost everything is negotiable, but don't sample someone else's song. Then you won't be able to monetize. That's the non-negotiable. Don't violate copyright stuff. You can say some nasty, gnarly stuff. You can be an absolute POS. Negotiable. Don't you dare sing 10 seconds of the theme song from Greatest American Hero. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought it could feel so good. I got to stop. Coke, I'm worked up. I admit it. It works me up. I'm happy ESPN did what it did. It's not that I'm against. Well, you know my view. You know my view.